This is the instructional video for Section 8 Workbook number 1 called Distances. Notice at the top of the page that Section 8 Workbook has a little subscript 1 here, and the title is Distances. And the reason behind that is that a workbook is a spreadsheet file that has multiple pages. If you look down at the bottom of the spreadsheet, it says Sheet 1, Sheet 2, Sheet 2. You can add more sheets by just clicking on this little button here, and you can rename them just by double clicking on them. And what we are going to do is create a workbook with multiple sheets. The first sheet is going to be called Distances, and the file is going to be called Section 8 Workbook. So we'll get started on that. Just put that up here on the side, and we'll take a look here. Now, our file is now called Book 1. We will save it later and call it Section 8 Workbook. But first thing we're going to do is change the sheet name. I just double-clicked there on Sheet 1, and I'm going to type in Distances. And later when I save my file, remember I'm going to save it calling it Section 8 Workbook. So this file that we're going to create, and where I've got my pointer here, is a spreadsheet that's going to convert various units of measure into other units of measure. So in column B I've got meters, so 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, etc. In row 1 I'm going to convert 5 meters into centimeters, and I'm going to convert 5 meters into kilometers or kilometers. I'm going to convert 5 meters into inches, and then into feet, and into hands. If you haven't heard of hands, it's a measure that they use to measure the height of a horse. I don't know if you knew that there were both feet and hands in the imperial measure system. It's all based on body parts. Inches are actually based on a segment of your finger. Anyways, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to list this or run this series of numbers 1 through 20. We're going to enter 5, 10, 15, etc. We're going to change the format of the header row. We're going to put borders on the cells throughout this area, and then we're going to start entering formulas here that will calculate the conversion of meters into the relevant unit of measure from the top row. So first, let's do this in the same location so we can talk about it the same way. We would like to have 1, enter, 2, enter, and as soon as I enter the two of them, I highlight them both to get a series, and I'm going to run it down until I get to 20, and you can see that the small number shows up, tells me how far I've gotten, and then I release and I get rows 1 through 20. And I will put the units of measure here. Each time you hit the tab key, by the way, it moves you over to the right and enters the data. So I hit the tab key after I entered it, tab key, and that's all entered. I will highlight the entire area, and I will put all borders on it. These are going to be centered and bold and have a gray background, and we remember the control key shortcut to get our formatting window is Control 1. So I would like it aligned to the vertical center. Doesn't matter right now, but that's where it is in case you ever need it. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to fill it with this medium level of gray right here. That looks good. Okay, so I have to put in 5 and 10 and 15, etc. There are different ways of doing it. I'm going to show you a sort of novel way of doing it. I'm going to put a 5 here, enter it by hitting the enter key, and then in the next cell I'm going to put a formula that takes the cell above it and adds 5. So all formulas start with an equal sign. All formulas start with an equal sign. All formulas start with an equal sign. There is nothing wrong with the audio track. All formulas start with an equal sign. So, equals, I can click in this cell to put the cell reference in the formula. You can see the formula being built up here. Plus, 5. And then I enter it. And so this has taken the value from C4, which is 5, added 5, and it displays as 10. Now that formula can be filled down. I don't have to highlight both. I simply highlight the bottom one, and I drag down with my fill handle, and in every case we're adding 5 to the one above. Let's pause right now, and we'll come back and fill in the rest of the formulas with the rest of the conversions. Now, continuing with the Section 8 workbook, you can see that I have saved the file as Section 8 workbook, and you should save it in your source files folder because you're still working on it and it's not ready to hand in yet. Note also that it says distances on this sheet. I've got a couple of blank sheets in the workbook which I'm going to fill in later. And I've also added some of these measurements that you're going to need. You're going to need to know that a meter is 100 centimeters, a kilometer is 1,000 meters, there are 2.54 centimeters in an inch, a foot is 12 inches, and there are 3 hands in a foot. So that is enough information in this green section to put in the appropriate formulas in row 4. And once we have them in row 4, we can fill them all down and finish the sheet. So let's start with the first formula here. When I have 1 meter is 100 centimeters, then I know that 5 meters is 500 centimeters. 10 meters is 1,000 centimeters. So whatever the number is for meter, to convert it to centimeters, I need to multiply by 100. So the formula is a very simple one. I start with an equal sign. Did I mention you need to start with an equal sign? All formulas start with an equal sign. The number of meters times, and times is that asterisk, which is something you might not be used to, but get used to it. That's the way spreadsheets work. Times 100. Enter. So that gives me 500. And if I wanted to fill that down, I'd have to select that cell, grab the fill handle, and fill down. And it gives me all the numbers I need. Now, while I've done that, I'm going to just do some formatting too. I'm going to hit Control 1, and I'm going to go to Number. And I like to see numbers of over 1,000 with commas in them. It's a little bit old-fashioned. But I can do that by going to Number, and use the thousands separator. No decimal places on this one. And I say OK, and that looks good. That's the way I'd like those numbers to look. It makes it easier to read. So kilometers is an easy formula as well. This is like a math word problem. Sorry for those of you who don't like math. A kilometer, 1,000 meters in a kilometer. That means that if I have 1,000 meters, I will have 1 kilometer. So if I look way down here at 100 meters, 100 meters is not even 1 kilometer. In fact, it's 1/10 of a kilometer, 0.1. So when I do this, and if I've done it successfully and fill down, this number down here will end up being 0.1. So the formula I use in this case is a division formula. I take the number of meters and divide by 1,000. Now division is a slash key. Also something to get used to. That's the way it works on all spreadsheets. So we divide by 1,000 and enter it, and we see 0.005. This can get filled down, and when I fill it down, I do indeed end up with 0.1 at the bottom. Now this is a bit messy. I don't like this. I'd like all my numbers to line up, so I'd like the same number of decimal places in all of them. So I'm going to hit Control 1 again, and I'm going to go to Number, and I'm going to specify the number of decimal places, and it'll have to be at least 3 because some of these have 3 decimal places. None of them have more than that, so anything more than 3 would be a waste of time. And if you look at your instructions, it says very clearly that the instructions should be or that they should be 3 decimals. And there we go. Now to finish this off very quickly, the number of inches can be calculated by looking right over here. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So whatever the centimeters are, I will have fewer inches. And I know that because if I had 2.54 centimeters, I would have 1 inch. So 2.54 is a bigger number than 1. And so I know that I'm going to convert this into a smaller number than I have here. So I have 500 centimeters, and I will have the same distance, 500 centimeters, 5 meters, like the distance across a classroom. the number of inches would be a smaller number than 500. And to make it smaller, and this is my conversion factor, 2.54, I'm going to have to divide. So equals that divided by 2.54. Enter. Feet. 1 foot is 12 inches. So if I had 12 inches, I have 1 foot. In other words, I have 12 times as many inches as feet for any given measure. If that's the case, I could take the inches and then what should I do? Should I multiply? Should I divide? You know what? I'm going to leave that to you because it's pretty straightforward. These last two, simple math. Just think it through. I know you can do it. When you've done it, fill down.